From Fremont, California, this is the Smokie podcast, a production of the Smoke Signal, covering everything from student life to what's going on in the world, all in short 20-minute episodes. I'm Mahek, Bhora, the web editor, and in this episode, two of our staff writers will be talking about lessons that they've learned in 2020 and what they'd like to take forward with them into 2021.
Hi, my name is Nishi, Bhagat, and I'm a senior staff writer here at the Smoke Signal.
Hey, my name is Maggie, and I am also a senior staff writer at the Smoke Signal. And today we will be talking about the roller coaster ride that has been 2020 and how its ups and downs have shaped us personally. I think Nishi and I have a lot on the table to discuss today, so without further ado, let's dive right in. So one of the big things I think that comes to my mind when I look back on 2020 is the revival of the Black Lives Matter movement. I remember back in May or so, seeing my social media feed just swamped with BLM posts catalyzed by the murder of George Floyd, and I'm going to be really honest here. It was initially very overwhelming just seeing all this information coming at me, But then this made me realize and identify eventually my own privilege and how I don't need to worry about living in fear of my life every day because of my race or worry about being actively involved in these kinds of issues. Like, I can quite literally sit back and just watch everything around me go by and not much would happen. But I've come to kind of develop this greater awareness that for African Americans and other people of color, it's a way different story, and they've got so much more on the line than someone like me does. And I think also through educating myself through different sources, one of the most important things I think I've learned is that distinction between performative and true activism. I've kind of gotten myself into that habit of keeping myself up to date with what's going on around me and just, donating, signing petitions, even calling or emailing police and justice departments, or even just something simple as doing research on a topic I didn't know a lot about before, and just passing that on to others. Something I did a lot of to educate myself also on BLM related issues as well was actually watching movies and documentaries. So one documentary I really recommend actually is The 13th. It's from Netflix, and I think that it was very eye-opening as to explaining the roots of institutionalized racism in the U.S. and how that's really led to huge issues like mass incarceration of people of color. So how about you, Nishi? Is there anything special you would like to share on how the BLM movement has affected you?
Yeah, definitely. So I think beyond just signing petitions and donating, something that I have really taken away from this movement is to continue educating myself on problems that I might not know firsthand. And so The 13th is a great documentary to get started on, but I think also the document about James Baldwin or even Hassan Minhaj's breakdown of the broken police system really helped me understand how systemic this problem is to our society. And it's not a matter of why can't we just be nicer to each other, because the way our society is structured really lets others benefit and others not so much. And so I think looking forward beyond what this Black Lives Matter movement has done already, I think it's really important to keep the same energy, because these problems won't be solved overnight. And Maggie, you mentioned something about like feeling overwhelmed, and I definitely felt that same sentiment, but I think it has really dwindled over time, and something that I hope to see 2021 bring is sort of this same sense of urgency to solve these issues at hand, because through like learning more about them, you realize that they're not overnight issues. And I think in this time of like the internet, when we can have a Google search and get our answers in less than half a second, we come to expect these solutions to our problems to come really quickly. But with problems that are this ingrained in our society, they just aren't going to come as quickly as half a second. And so I think looking forward into 2021, these problems, and something that I hope to do is get more involved and really bring about change rather than just hoping that we're just going to be nicer to each other. And something I hope to do in 2021 is really start these discussions to bring about change instead of sitting back and just hoping that they will. And so I think something that was a really good example of that was the discussions that went on during the election this year. So Maggie, do you have any thoughts on that? What sort of things did you feel during the election of 2020?
Yeah, so first of all, I really agree with what you said, Nishi. Really well said. But yeah, so the 2020 election, I feel like, is the first time I've really been neck deep, like, invested in a U.S. election, and not just like the presidential part of it either, but also the propositions, Senate, House of Reps, everything really. And I think a big reason for that is just because I'm more mature and educated than I was in 2016 and the years before that, obviously. But I also do think that the events of 2020, from like the pandemic to BLM to climate change and so forth, kind of, I guess, switched on a light in me. And I feel like I genuinely felt like I had full-fledged opinions on things, and I wanted to see change happen, which I felt really relied on the outcome of this election. And one thing I really remember is, I guess, the moment I realized our country really isn't nearly as progressive as I thought. So, for example, Louisiana recently passed a proposition that basically bans abortion rights in their state. So, yeah, that was a pretty big wake-up call for me. And, of course, I feel like, just like a lot of other people feel, I found myself coming across so many partisan information sources, which really reminded me to keep in mind not only the good but also the bad sides of each candidate, rather than, you know, just taking in what the media tries to feed me, which also reminds me of how much I saw people idolizing politicians and just putting them on pedestals, especially people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Kamala Harris, which actually also served as a reminder to myself to not fall in this trap of, you know, thinking of these people as icons or saints or whatnot. But yeah, aside from that, Nishi, how do you think this past election has changed you?
Yeah, I think that this past election has really allowed me to fully understand and draw my own opinions for the political decisions being made in the larger world around us. And I think it's really important to discuss the role of social media that is at hand during these sort of political discussions, because I think it's really important to talk about the way social media plays into these discussions, because you were talking about how, you know, this country isn't as progressive as you thought it would be. And I think I really felt that too, even at like a local level here in California, because I thought that Prop 16 was going to get passed and, you know, affirmative action was going to be reinstated, but it really wasn't. And I think that goes to show that the echo chamber effect in social media is really powerful in shaping sort of our mindset of what others are thinking about. But it's really important to understand that, because we don't want to limit ourselves just to the perspectives that we already think. And so I think, for me personally, like looking forward into 2021, when I'll be going off to college, I hope to meet new people and sort of have discussions with people who don't think the way that I do, so that I can understand and break free of this sort of echo chamber effect that already exists from my intake of like social media. But I think beyond just the election and what happened in the larger world, I think COVID-19 and the pandemic has had a really big impact on the way it has played into our lives here in our homes. So Maggie, how do you think distance learning in the pandemic has impacted you?
Yeah, first of all, I really agree with that college part you were talking about, Nishi, because I think it's really important to really be able to see and experience different perspectives of people you meet outside. But yeah, so I think just being quarantined at home so much this year really got me to be excited and just more appreciative of things in my life that would normally be, I guess, super mundane. So here's an example. One thing I remember was right in the beginning of shelter in place, when for some reason my family and I got into this super weird obsession of going on supermarket runs and just, I guess, overbuying food every time, just because we went out so rarely that we started to actually, I guess, get excited over like the mere prospect of food shopping outside. And I do think another silver lining to quarantine for me was that, I guess, it really prompted me to develop a steady routine and start doing more to kind of I guess, improve myself since I had like seriously way too much time on my hands. So, for example, I started actually getting in the habit of cooking for myself every day, even on school days and such, and learning new food recipes in the process as well. Whereas pre-quarantine, I think I could barely cook an egg. I've also started exercising and working out regularly. Me from 7 months ago would definitely be shocked. But for me personally, I like doing a mix of running and fitness YouTubers. I actually highly recommend MadFit if you're looking to start getting into working out. I know there was the whole Chloe Ting craze and everything, but MadFit has these really fun and upbeat dance workouts. So it feels more like you're having, a big dance party rather than doing repetitive, boring exercises. I also got to do a lot of things I wouldn't have had as much time to do had in-person school still been in session, such as driving practice, since there weren't a lot of cars out on the road during early quarantine, I feel like. So that was really good for me. And not gonna lie, at the same time, I also became a lot lazier for things, mainly school-wise, like waking up at literally the last minute for class or studying for APs like literally the week before. So that's definitely something I'm still trying to turn around. Wish me luck. And lastly, I think being in quarantine for just this long in 2020 made me really just treasure alone time a lot more. Like, I mean, obviously I did miss my friends a lot, but simultaneously, I do think it was really nice for me to kind of have this break from being around the same exact people every day and just being able to, reflect on stuff. So, Nishi, is there anything you would like to add relating to life in quarantine?
Yeah, so I think this lockdown has really given me this chance to self-reflect on what life was before and what life is now. And something I realized is I really miss like the small aspects of school. For example, just laughing with my friends during passing period or going out at lunch because of our open campus and just jamming out to songs in the car after, a bunch of stressful tests or something like that are all these small memories that made up the bulk of my high school experience. And even though I will miss big moments like our senior homecoming or going to prom, I think these small memories that made up so much of my high school experience is what I'm gonna miss the most. And I think that just goes to show, even though that there will be these things that I will miss, I think this has given me a chance to really realize how much I do have right now, because as we come of age in this new and unpredictable times, I think it's really easy for us to see it. Like we don't have to look far to see that there's people who have it so much worse than we do. And so just being able to have a house or just being able to have meals and just being able to have a family is so much more than what others might not have. And so I think being able to self-reflect in this time of a lockdown has given me so much to be grateful for. And I think that just goes to show like a larger message at hand of when we come of age in like such an unpredictable time when nothing in life has gone as the way we planned it. It really taught me how to be more resilient in the future, because nothing in life is going to go the way we plan. And so being able to rely on the support of your family and your friends to continue accomplishing the same goals you set out for yourself, even though there will be obstacles you never saw coming, is a really important life skill to have. And so I'm really grateful that the lockdown gave me a chance to experience that and overcome some of these obstacles that came my way. But yeah, I'm really glad we got a chance to discuss all of this, Maggie.
Oh my god, yeah. So I think it's definitely easy to see the bad in 2020 with the pandemic, all the injustices we see happening every day, and of course, like you said, the lack of a normal senior year and all that. But I do think my biggest goal for not only me, but for everyone, honestly, is to just stay optimistic and really just look forward into 2021. I'm sorry, that sounds really cheesy, but I'm honestly excited for what the future has in store for us, especially for you and I, Nishi, and all the seniors out there as we, graduate and transition into our post-mission lives. For more content by The Smoke Signal, visit our website at www.thesmokesignal.org. To our listeners, thank you for taking time out of your day and tuning into this episode of the Smokie podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
I'd like to thank Nishi and Maggie for opening up about how 2020 has shaped them both personally. As a senior myself, I could resonate with Maggie's statement of being excited about what's yet to come, and I hope you all can feel the same way too. The background music is produced by Lucrembo, and the show was edited by Mahek, Bhora. Hopefully this gave you food for thought for you to continue the discussion beyond the podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.